We are back, everybody. Welcome back. It is Friday, and I am super thrilled to have more pixel art here for you. It should be a fast show. Famous last words. Artist Journal, June 30th, 2027, broadcasting to the world from the ship in my mind in Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back to your radio show video channel that features art. I think this would have been a podcast without the art, but as I mentioned on Spotify about a year ago, maybe this should be a YouTube. And so it is a YouTube because we are looking at art, and just speaking in the abstract about art is kind of difficult. You got to see it to believe it. You got to feel it, and it's got to be real. That is the great thing about art to a certain degree, isn't it? It is tangible. It is tangible. Otherwise, we're in philosophy, so it is tangible. We feel it. It reminds us of our humanity, perhaps, should we speculate further with that. So, all to say, welcome back. Happy Friday. Let's cruise through this episode. So, isn't this exciting? I think DJ Kuro actually sent this to me. Thought you might like this sort of thing. And I recognize the artist. It is Anis. Let me get the name right. It is Anis Abdin. And we've seen Anis Abdin's work before, but I don't recall seeing any of the works on Foundation. So maybe Anis Abdin is also on, maybe I saw works on Twitter. Maybe it was this work, actually right here, very hard to do. I think it was that work. You know, I'm kind of back to this pixel art situation, which is the pixel art question, shall we call it. 100 years from now, increasingly this thesis is becoming kind of more ingrained as well. Like it's kind of surviving the last week or so of questioning. In 100 years, is pixel art going to be one of those things that really, for lack of a better term, movements that are really going to actually survive the test of time and kind of be seen as a kind of historic movement? And the reasoning for that is, there's probably several reasons, but as we were discussing with RJ in the Twitter spaces, this idea that you're using and Ed Marola was also mentioning this, the native unit of digital art is the pixel. And so the question being, is there something kind of special, something kind of novel about this focus on the pixel? And there's also, so that's one half, kind of the philosophical aspect. And on the other hand, there's the accessibility. The kids love pixel art. They love Minecraft. And it's kind of why? Because it's these big, juicy pixels, these chunky pixels. So there's also the accessibility. And another thing going in the favor of that is, in a weird way, I think we could say pixel art, to generalize, and it is an overgeneralization, but it's not super adopted by the contemporary art world. And I think perhaps the reasoning behind that, and I think it's just a bias that maybe many of us have or had, is this idea that, well, that's kind of like for kids, this sort of thing. And I would argue that's kind of like a bullish, it actually works in favor of pixel art, because how many great art movements are ridiculed and not taken seriously at the beginning? So when I see works here by Anis Abdin, a data science specialist, pixel artist, and game developer who specializes in limited palettes and retro art, shout out to Retro Manny, when I see stuff like this, it does start to, I do start to ask these questions again. So here's the work. A beautiful landscape with a limited palette. And I mean, who have we seen do landscapes with a limited palette before? It is mech.txt, who just had a huge sale, as we're going to see in this episode. This is done quite differently, though. This isn't, because, mech.txt will more, it's a different, we might say it's a smaller canvas, oftentimes with mech.txt, bigger pixels sometimes, and the way that the colors are integrated into the landscape are different. And so in a mech.txt, the sky here there might be a little more dithering, let's say, in the sky, whereas here it is the mountain, this valley, or this mountain side chain on the sea, that is where all the dithering basically takes place. There's a few stars, and this is also quite brilliant and beautiful. The reflection in the water is an opportunity to change the dithering, and so we get this reflection, so a different kind of dithering, a different image, and with that, finally here, as I wrap up on this piece, we get that contrast that we've been pointing out for weeks and months in pixel art that's so powerful, which is, or just what we might call GIF art, for lack of a better term, when you have static pixels contrasting with dynamic or moving pixels. And that also adds beauty in that contrast. And you even have that little shooting star there. So beautiful work. Limited palette is powerful here. Interesting colors. This is at a reserve of 2 ETH, which sounds like a lot of money, but look, Anis Abdin has sold quite a few works here for quite a bit of money, 0.4 and 0.2 and 0.17. So it's pretty cool. And wait till you see 0.3, 0.4, and on. So very cool. And thank you, DJ Kiro, for sending that. A great work to start with on our Friday cruise through the Elbe, a German river, where I recently just went on a small cruise. Anyways, continuing on. Thank you for the comments. Runetune, it resists rationality, referring to our beginning of last episode. I couldn't have said it better. Thanks for the love, Adrian. This made my day. Your observations are all on point. Now I'm more eager than ever to pick up the iPad and get to work. So that is awesome. Glad to hear, Runetune. And yeah, it was a fantastic work, and I'm just thrilled. Again, these working on different chains oftentimes inspires different kinds of art, just like different kinds of tools inspire different kinds of art. And also McRenders, I totally agree with what you're saying. The power of exporting is extreme. Again, it's this idea of combination of tools. As someone who plays with as much software as I can, I love using all the different quote-unquote brushes. Have been enjoying all the pixel art and dithering type experimentation lately and can't stop now. Ricano and Spiegel are both huge influences, and I'm happy to be mentioned alongside such legends. Much love as always, Adrian. Cheers. Cheers back, Mick. And back to exporting. I think exporting brings the possibility to mix tools and to arrive in different places because combinations are endless. And remember, the nature of technology, combination is one of the ways that technology evolves. And we could use that analogous process in the way our art making evolves. This is us using different technologies to make new technologies, new images. Fascinating. And finally here, Andre Blues. So we were looking at, I thought maybe Andre was using Behance to stream. Apparently not. Nice show again. Thank you so much. I will try streaming on Behance ASAP. So yeah, check it out, everybody. Like, I've been wanting to do that, but yeah, I mean, just add it to the endless list of things to do. Check it out. You can do streaming on Behance from your iPad. And isn't that exciting? Again, like if you look at some of the live streams I've done, I was experimenting with just kind of making art live. I still think there's something to that. And maybe I'd put it on the Behance, because now I feel like people have a certain expectation of what they're going to find on this channel. If I'm live streaming, you know what I want to do for live streaming? As we have our cup of coffee here in the morning, what I want to do for live streaming on this channel is actually where people suggest artists and then we discuss it, or artworks and then we discuss it, go back and forth there. I think that'd be totally fun. And that's how this channel should live stream. I'll save the Behance for the art streaming, perhaps. And also Score, Saiko. Thank you so much, Pocobelli. There are a lot of fascinating AI tools these days. These are able to realize a lot of process, which was impossible to do for one person before. And thank you more to Spiral. Amazing episode. So thank you, everybody, for all the awesome comments. As usual, we're having a ton of fun over here. Let me just kill this. Okay, so continuing. Oh, I wanted to highlight this comment yesterday. Demon Ego, referring to their process. The colorful parts in my work are gradients. I arranged them all digitally and printed them out, added them to my collage. So I believe this is what I was mentioning yesterday. So most pieces are prints. Most of pieces are prints in this work. Most of the pieces are prints in this work. So very cool. Again, combining digital and physical. From digital to physical and back, as I like to say, Demon Ego is on the forefront of that. With a few other artists. So fascinating. Continuing on, this, I'm not a huge effects hash user or collector, although I have in the past, and I think it's a really cool thing, website which makes generative art. But I'm actually very excited about what they're doing here. FX Hash 2.0, a multi-chain future. Today we're super excited to share some major news with you. We've started working on a significant platform expansion built around integrating Ethereum and on-chain minting. Let's talk about what the FX Hash 2.0 future looks like. And once it's here, it'll empower you with the freedom to choose between Tezos and Ethereum, along with on-chain minting for both, allowing you to use the chain best suited for your needs. And in my, and if it's going to work on Ethereum, it's going to work on Moonbeam, and every other, which is on Polkadot, and every other EVM, Ethereum virtual machine, and how many chains? That means it'll work on Phantom. That means it'll work on every other chain that is EVM in theory. The programming is the same, as far as I understand. So this is super cool. And if I was Object, like I think I mentioned this months ago, if I was Object, that would probably, other than curator tools, which I think they need, that would probably be my main focus, which is going multi-chain, because they have the user interface. I mean, it's the Facebook user interface with the little red notifications on the top right, that is, and the following. And they have the people are using it. So I hope Object would follow. I mean, could you imagine that? Where's OpenSea if Object does that? It's an interesting question. More Midjourney news. So I remember, if you were in the Gogolitis Twitter space back in February, when Gogolitis was making the big comeback, which has gone very well so far, you'll remember that Gogolitis was saying how he had experimented with artificial intelligence, with AI and Midjourney, but the biggest issue for him was that it took so long to render the images, and I sympathized enormously, and it has improved a little bit, but check this out. So one of these kind of big AI accounts, Midjourney's new turbo mode is ridiculously fast. I used the R parameter to run this prompt 5 times. It generated all 5 images in 15 seconds. Incredible. You can turn it on with /turbo, and it's available for standard plan and above. So increasingly, there is motivation to subscribe to these services. I already do. Like I probably spend, maybe TMI here, I probably spend $100 on AI a month on ChatGPT and Midjourney. And I don't use them enough to justify it, but when you see stuff like this, maybe the productivity, like this is live. So this looks much faster. This looks about 5 times faster, maybe more. Sometimes you wait like 30 seconds. It can take sometimes longer. So this is impressive, what we have here. So they're speeding up Midjourney, use Turbo, super cool. Also, there's a new parameter called Weird. And this is interesting too. It does exactly what you think it does. I remixed an image from 2-word prompt, Sukaban aesthetic, adjusting the weird parameter from 0 to 3000. Here are 10 side-by-sides for easy comparison of weirdness. So here's with a weirdness of 50, here's with a weirdness of 100. So let's look at the example. The big images are the original, and the weird images are the ones in the 2x2 grid. So here is the original, and then this is with weird 200. So you see the variations, pretty cool, frankly, the nice painterliness here. And it almost looks like a randomizer function of sorts. And the more weird, so this is 300 weird, and the more weird you get, the more further away from your original image it goes. So here is the original, and then it starts to deviate even more, and that's only with 500. So it looks like you don't need too much weird. I actually quite like, frankly, 200 might be my favorite results. But as you see here, here's 800, and you see it's starting to get really different, as you can see here. And so it's like, it feels like a randomizer of sorts, which, I mean, philosophically puts a whole other, layer. It's like when you think of randomness in modern art, you're thinking of like John Cage, is it Mercy Cunningham, Robert Rauschenberg, philosophically, as well as many others. Randomness is a huge topic. And as William Burroughs says, how random is random? A beautiful, fascinating, provocative, and profound question. As we look here, now we're applying, I'm tempted to interpret this, weird as a kind of randomizer. And what does that mean when you start having these kind of random, applying it to algorithms? And in this case, you would have to ask that question too. How random is random in this case? So we don't know exactly, but it does kind of, as you see here, this is 2500. I mean, all you're really seeing is an echo of this subject. It's like it's identified the subject here in the main original image, and then everything else gets further and further, as well as the subject starts to get further and further interpreted and randomized, perhaps. So pretty fascinating developments here on a daily basis with Midjourney. We are on top of it. Unknown Collector, who will be on a Twitter space in, I think, about a couple of weeks here in July. I often feel artists feel like a failure with missing recognition and sales. And let me see if my screen comes back here. We are going live, and here we are. I often feel like artists feel like a failure with missing recognition and sales. This is due to the toxic growth and life success thoughts we get fed daily. Well, I don't know if those are toxic, but continuing on, let's take the point here. Being a positive influence for another person on a daily basis, that is success for me. It's kind of a profound question, right? What is success? And it can be hard, and it's kind of interesting. Like, I've started, posting more images. I just posted one this morning. And at first I was, kind of shy about posting my art on Twitter and then the more you do it, the more you just don't care. And so that's kind of interesting too. And people should do that because it just gets your work out there. So continuing on, being a positive influence for another person on a daily basis, that is success for me. And only by sharing your work here, even though you feel nobody may see it, you bring joy, motivate to reflect, enlightened, etc. At least one person that sees it every day. And that's true. Even if your numbers are low, whether it's likes or views or whatever the case, that's one person. Even if you get one like, that's one person. Again, most artists that are physical contemporary artists that haven't gotten any success are working in studios by themselves and nobody sees what they're doing. So that is quite a luxury we have over here. Creating and being an artist is a success story in itself. So inspiring words from Unknown Collector. It's facing so much adversity from society and still following your passion. I completely agree. It's facing your own struggles and the struggle of the world in a way most people would be scared of. It's true, it takes courage to be an artist. It's facing constant judgment by others. It's being vulnerable for everybody to see. It takes a lot of courage. I'm proud of you all and never was so inspired in my life before entering this space. Doesn't matter how much of a SHIT show it is here, the artists and art changed my life forever for the better. So beautiful words from Unknown Collector. If you feel like you're not getting too many views or sales, all is well. Regular Jake, I think this is super interesting. Back on the, well, I'll show you. Back on the pixel art front, I've been buying BTC and crypto for almost 4 years. And I just now bought my first NFTs. I wanted to avoid hype and scams and really didn't see much I liked. That changed recently when exploring M1X Labs. I came across pixel art, which sent me down a long rabbit hole. Now, this is Regular Jake, and there is a Gogolitis work. And we're back to this pixel art idea because how many of us started by being with pixel art, with wanting to collect pixel art? I started that way. Joe Rogan's dad started that way. Runetoon started that way. It was with Rada that a lot of us started with his brilliant, beautiful, inspiring pixel art. So I'm kind of back to this, what I find is actually an counterintuitive idea for me. That this idea that pixel art, there's something about it that actually maybe we should, be considering here as we kind of zoom out and imagine what, this all means when we're thinking in terms of millennia. So I just think this is really interesting. Another person, this is not just like random. There's something going on here, so, and look at this beautiful work by Gogolitis. There's the cats. Continuing on, speaking of pixel art, Popple, pixelancton and lenticular prints. So we were talking about this months ago. How is Popple going to print the work? These are dying to be screen printed on colored paper, this pixelancton series. This is a test batch, but it looks already quite good in real life, which can't be captured on video. We'll sort out some technical details and show the final product soon. And Explainer Gallery, I have to say, is an incredibly professional operation. They're a lot of fun to work with, and look at everything they're doing. I put out a work with them, and Popple has been putting out all sorts of stuff, and I believe they're in Shanghai. So I just am a big supporter and fan of what they're doing here. So here, and look at what they're doing now. And there's even music. I love it. So lenticular prints. Remember we saw Stolimir do this a while ago, and it's kind of hard to capture on video. But I think it's kind of like somewhat 3D, and maybe it even brings a little bit of movement to the work, which is kind of interesting. So, Explainer Gallery, very interesting. Now, this is also interesting. Remember we were talking about views, and the views not translating into sales yet. We're seeing Popple was getting 4 million views, but where are the bids and all this sort of thing? Well, it looks like it's happening. And it's only been a couple of weeks here since we've been commenting on this. So current bid, a new work by Popple, a very cool, classic Popple work, kind of biological, alien, almost, vaguely sci-fi Geiger alien, and here's this cool little brain, this sci-fi pixel art with this kind of dystopian sci-fi pixel art, beautifully rendered as usual, again, static and dynamic here. Often using generative art in the dynamic parts, like this might be generative here. So Popple working his magic here, and it already has a bid of 0.66 ETH, and how long did it take? About 4 or 5 hours, and there's a $1,000 bid on Popple's pixel art. So again, isn't this interesting? Like, I keep coming back, like, is pixel art going to devour everything? And obviously not. There's AI, there's everything. But it's kind of, there's something about pixel art that continues to kind of resonate here. And back to, here's mech.txt. So a sale yesterday, a huge sale. I think it's an all-time high on for mech.txt, 1.369 ETH. So 1.4 ETH. We're talking, ETH is at 2,000, so we're talking about $2,800 for this one-of-one by mech.txt out of Indonesia. And shout out to Mario, who I met at an art opening yesterday out of Indonesia. And he was thrilled to hear that there are artists out of Indonesia that are selling on the blockchain and everything. And yeah, that was a fascinating conversation. I hope he watches this. So here's mech.txt with a great, huge sale. So big congrats on that. 328 by 328, factored up 10 times. 16 frame GIF. Let's continue on, if we can. What? Oh, look who this is. Manifold.xyz. Let's see if we can get this. Awesome. So Rare and the Boston Dynamics dog. So has I'm not sure if it's a limited edition of 85. Wow, at 0.142 ETH, 32 minted. So this is almost 5 ETH. I mean, Rare's brought in almost $10,000 here. You know, and this is the thing, like we saw it with the Klimt yesterday, the highest European auction record ever. Art that people really believe in and love, it's almost like there's no bear markets for that. Like it doesn't matter. People just have to have it if they have the cash. And you know what part of it is the investment. People feel like, say that person that spent $108 million on the Klimt. If it's a masterpiece, there's only one, you go, well, maybe it's not a terrible investment in these times when money's all over the place and money's sloshing around and there's all this uncertainty. If you own the painting, you own the painting, and that is going to be worth something. So art is a very interesting investment. So all to say, and I assume this is a pastiche, normally there'd be a dog here. I'm not sure what the reference painting is. That dog, Don't Hunt by Rare. And so cool kind of text here too. This stuff always helps, you know, like really make it cool for the collectors. They really appreciate that and will reward you for these little details. Make it cool. A nice one of one for only $28 from Board Me Social Club. Everything's just fine. Carry on. So everything going wonderful here with the knives in the head and the neck here from Board Me Social Club. And there is some beautiful lettering here and everything. So just a nice one of one. It's funny. I went to Board Me Social Club's page and I was like, is there any one of ones I could buy? And then this showed up. I don't have the Tezos in my wallet. Otherwise I'd jump on it. I may try and do it. There's the fangs there. I may try and do it before this uploads. Let's see. Famous last words. Cool iPhone painting here. Silent Choir, finger painting number 2 from Dataste. So, of course, I'm a huge user of the iPhone, and so, yeah, very interesting here. I think quite a nice painting, nice composition, kind of mysterious. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but just a cool composition. Interesting texture in the clouds and everything from Dataste, whose work I think we've looked at before. So this sold, check this out actually in the auction. This is interesting. So a one of one, again, if you're having problems selling your work, then one of one is a great way to start creating some demand because people really take one of ones a little more serious. Look at this auction bid of one. Mikey Wilson comes in and then Rorich comes in later for the win at 7 Tezos, 77 cents. So very cool. Tito has a new work here. I believe this is new. June 27th, Corrupted Windows. And this is on Object, on Tezos here. And so interesting, you know, modern iconography. We have an iPad. We have, you know, Mac OS Windows here. Interestingly, I've never actually seen this before, and I'd love to see this idea taken further. This wall here is kind of like a big window, Mac OS window. And that is an interesting concept. Maybe just done kind of quickly there, but that is an interesting concept. I mean, it really does bring this idea. We've talked about how the walls will become screens potentially at some point. And that actually seems to be almost a visualization of that idea to a certain degree. So someone in a gallery of sorts, and there's a big iPad with all of these windows. Interestingly, you know, this snake-like barracuda figure or animal is kind of going in and out of the, you know, crossing the picture plane here. And we have a skull and lightning and a rocket ship and all sorts of stuff. So Tito with cool work, the mohawk, mysterious as ever. edition of 10, one on secondary for $7.50. Demon Ego. So we were just hearing about Demon Ego. So Demon Ego was talking about the physical work, but released a really cool GIF here. So a purely digital work for the most part, all dithered, let's put it that way. Although there may be physical sourcing for this. And here it is, and it has a really cool title. You wonder if that's Demon Ego there. Is there a self-portrait in here? Is this a self-portrait? I ate both eyes for the ability to see the future, almost a Oedipus King Lear feeling to it. So this blindness, cool subject matter, buy now for 10, and how many left? 4 left. Interesting, just very interesting. Stipin Pixel, whose market has really picked up here. It's, I don't even get the chance to buy them anymore on primary. If this is the middle of the night here in Berlin, 5 Tezos each, selling out in 14 minutes. And my friends, we're back to pixel art. I mean, this is pretty dithered, but pretty pixel art. So Emotions Haven, and there's something to be said here. There's almost something unspoken in pixel art that is really, there's an attractor there that we all kind of understand, but hasn't, like, there's something there that I feel is more than just, it's fun. Like, I'm trying to verbalize what it is that we really love about pixel art. Anyway, another architectural subject with a interesting kind of textured digital background that's moving. Emotions Haven by Stipin Pixel, who's doing really well, which is awesome. Collaboration from Nuggeteer and Notorious Man XTZ. 4 of Hearts featuring No Wonder. And just cool kind of almost circuitry here. Pixel art circuitry within the confines of a playing card. So how cool is that? And a variation on these 4 of Hearts here. And then cool text. 4 of Hearts comes in on this almost New York Stock Exchange type ticker here. Very cool. So that is $6.89, and that is on secondary. Let's just see what it sold for on primary for 4 Tezos. So you can get it for a little bit more. Our Milk is coming back, if you're wondering. I sometimes disappear from Twitter, but I'm still an artist, and I'm coming back. And of course, Our Milk will usually do these kind of really cool structures. Kind of does have an Eastern European feel. And I think his dad and his uncle, if I'm not mistaken, maybe his parents, did stained glass. And so oftentimes this will be colored in a stained glass sort of way. Very cool. From Our Milk. A couple of really cool works here. Again, I'm going to try and buy this. I need to get the Tezos on by bit. So this one was bought already, this Golf Arena Hole 24. We were talking about sports as subject matter, which is fascinating. It's a really, really rich subject matter that is completely underutilized. Here, Byte by Bit is utilizing it. You know, this is a modern landscape, isn't it? Right? And here's another one, 5 Tezos for this 1 of 1. There you see it. So I think this is quite brilliant. Quite brilliant. I hope it's not gone. Just really cool series here from Byte by Bit. Only 5 Tezos. Ed Marola released 7 Memoria, and so we couldn't cover them all, but we have a few here. And these are all 1 of 1s and just interesting works released by Ed all at once here. So just interesting experimentation as usual, trademark colors. And a lot of these are going for auction. Memoria number 5. I thought this was quite beautiful. I don't think we actually already looked at this. I think we've already looked at this because I remember this figure here and this tiny little guy and the contrast. Maybe we looked at that yesterday. So that was a couple of days ago. So that one we've seen. This one we haven't seen. And here is a building structure. Beautiful combination of colors here of that kind of neon orange and pink with this beautiful dithered experimental landscape here and this citadel of sorts or gate. This almost looks like one of those, a Roman triumph, is what you'd call that. So there's always this kind of ancient feel to a lot of what Ed does, which is super cool. As you see here, this classical themed temple and this bright red figure here contemplating existence before going underground perhaps to meet the oracle. and here is just some really nice way of doing some columns, almost like some ancient Greek architecture here, and all sorts of experimentation here. So it's just getting really rich over here. Ed has so many techniques that you can almost turn anything into something interesting right now. So it's very cool. Temple, and this is sold for 88 Tezos, just sold. Santiago with a couple of more experimental abstracts here. I'm getting excited here. And again, this is almost all pixel art, which I find kind of interesting. I mean, we saw the rare, there are other digital painting, but this pixel art thing, Soldiers of the Goblin Corps. So another really interesting kind of semi-abstract, impressionistic work of these kind of faces coming through. And again, playing with what looks like a variation on waffle draws, but maybe, maybe a software that Santiago created himself, as he has before using ChatGPT. That is how, if you're not familiar with this, that is how avant-garde many of these artists are. Here's another one. You're not at the gas station, they say, but what is the tear of joy in these levitating legs pointing to the sun that was just born from the embroidery in the shirt of this gas station soldier named me? This Barosian cut-up text here with this beautiful, almost woven work here. I mean, that is actually how I would try and, if you were to try and physicalize this, I think it would be through weaving, wouldn't it? I wonder if you could send that to a digital weaver online and get something in the mail. You can buy this one of one for 100 Tezos. Entrance by Joy Kid. I found this in Sabato's collection. Very cool work here. Just a cool pixel art abstract here. Kind of different looking. And edition of 11 for 35 on secondary. And what do we pay on primary? Only 3 Tezos. Gotta love it. And let's see if we can reload this. And Stalomir, more pixel art, and I'm not trying. Empowered by Moonshine, I'm coming to you Monday. So a new work by Stalomir. We were discussing, I almost called yesterday's episode experimental pixel art. Remember that? So here's more experimental pixel art. Very cool, kind of just, you don't need me to explain that. And here's a work in progress, I believe, from Gogolitis, okay? So Gogolitis is working on this huge 1920 by 1080 work. So this looks like a close-up of sorts. Putting the pixel art, let's see how it's doing. 3,400 views since yesterday, about this time. Continuing on, remember the video game artist, the anonymous video game artist here, who uses these video game, almost like, feels like later video games. This isn't just Super Nintendo. This feels like almost like Sega Genesis or something, and does these kind of semi-spiritual, mystical works. Symbolic Vision, The Wave. This series is a conceptual research on archives and old technologies that run through all my works presented on the Tezos blockchain. So these sold out at only 4 Tezos. So deals to be had out there. Silva Santus, Born from Shadows. So more glitch ROM, and this almost looks, what is this? So interesting, almost a little dragon or demon figure that is hatched in front of a moon here in this glitch ROM by Silva Santus. Edition of 44 for a Tezos 23. Pamelo Cerrone, Kakashi. So with a couple of works here. This is a one of one for 55 Tezos, and kind of working with the pixel art as well, the GIF pixel art. And of course, we know Pamelo's work mostly from these gorgeous works that this one was also released. Edition of 5 for 8 Tezos 88. And just these really nice kind of almost paper cutout illustration style. I wonder if Pamelo is based out of Tokyo. It kind of has a Japanese feeling to it, doesn't it? At least over here, but not sure. And then there's small versions of it there. And this record player, very, very cool. Steya Steya. Cover of an album that was or will be released on vinyl someday. I sure hope so. Corrupted memory card. So this is cool. Cap'n and Dither. And here we have, of course, we've seen Dither before, and there's Cap'n's trademark. That's beautiful work we remember, and stickers and everything. And this is called Corrupted Memory Card, Save Files of a Jammed Castlemania. I thought it was Castlevania. Castlemania CDX on a bong station from 1990, who knows what. So pretty cool here. Interesting work by Cap'n. playing with video games on a retro TV, and there's Cap'n, where the Sony logo or whatever your logo would be, buy now for $13.90, and Rocano with another one of these kind of narrative works here, another pixel art narrative work. Again, kind of reminiscent of that Sabato series, and again, the fan in this transitions, which suggest a narrative and mood, and always kind of playing with these kind of retro tech, and then the game, the story within the story, we might say, which is, not to overstate things, a Shakespearean technique, the story within the story. When they put the play in the play, in a sense, we could say this is the story in the story here with the video games inside, which creates this kind of meta feeling here. And then there's this, so there's, if this didn't move, if this didn't transition between two, storyboards, so to speak, or layouts, we'd say there's a story in a story. But now we have this story between these two larger works, and then the fan comes in. So it's kind of interesting. Again, I'm really fascinated by what this is doing from a narrative perspective. And I love how short it is, because I think if you go too far, it starts not to feel like art and maybe some kind of visuals, or at least maybe more video. But by doing it so minimally, I think it's kind of really impactful in the mood, and it doesn't say too much. It kind of keeps it minimal where you can focus on what's going on. Continuing on. Ex-Mortal. Look at these insanely beautiful colors here. Look at these insanely beautiful colors. Just a gorgeous celebration of technology here. Thematically or content-wise, this could be seen a little darker with these skulls in this retro computer, but otherwise, the textures are a gorgeous celebration here. The color, this gorgeous color. So just like the color of technology, Terminal, beautiful title, already at 27 Tezos. There's one on secondary left. If you were fast, you could have picked one up for $6.66, and those sold out within an hour, unsurprisingly. Surprising it took that long. Kind of a similar color theme here, Synth, cool title. Not sure who this artist is, anonymous artist here, edition of 10. I think I saw this on Twitter, available for 100 Tezos. And then here you have this like technology, almost like they've consumed the technology. Really just kind of strange, interesting, unusual work here. So Synth by an anonymous wallet here. And also Nuke Hype has a open edition Dream Experience 1. And this is an open edition, only 3 minted. So cool kind of video analog glitch here. And Sabato with a very experimental drawing exercise. Again, I'm kind of back to combination. Look at this. Microfight Mosh Pit. Exporting. Sometimes the drawing exercise is also a glitching exercise. In this case, I took an AVI, a .avi file output of a Deluxe Paint 4 animation and glitched it in Audacity. It's a process that lets you edit raw data as an audio waveform. The abstract depaint animation was inspired by generative cellular automata models and the movement of microscopic algae or microphytes. So isn't that interesting? It helps to read, right? Because at first you might say, okay, so there's this thing moving around. But when you realize maybe this is sort of kind of has a biological aspect to it, this almost technological looking pixel art machinery is emulating the movement of little, what you might call microphytes or cellular algae in a microscopic way, then it gets a little bit more interesting, doesn't it? So fascinating work here from Sabato. And very cool work. Here's another one, drawing exercise. And here's another one, Fragile Compositions, more glitch work. And this is a 1 of 1. It hasn't been sent out. I don't think it's been listed. And just another cool 1 of 1 glitch work from Sabato and called Isola. Cool title too. So the Poetic Sabato at work. And here's Rocano again and Inner Vision. Very cool title. And here is basically, some VR goggles, a VR headset of some kind. And so I have to give Rocano a lot of credit for the content, the choice of subject matter. We see it the same in Dan Control, who does it in a completely different way. But, I love how topical the subject matter is here, because it takes a cool technological drawing process or technique, and then, again, uses modern subject matter. And what else do you need for a truly contemporary art? CCTV's pile up another really cool work here. Fun content from Kramer. And here you see some security cameras getting piled down and almost smashed down, kind of having a little bit of feeling like they're alive a little bit with their glowing light coming out of it. Very cool work. I picked one up. Edition of 5 for 5 Tezos. And some work by Strange Things, some AI artwork here, playing again with the reliefs. This is deeper relief, and playing with the iPhone case reliefs. And getting some really just kind of interesting and beautiful effect. I mean, it's unbelievable, the output of Strange Thing. Like, he's using AI to the max. He's going to have like 100, he probably makes more than 100 images a day, and could, he's pretty amazing. What happens when he starts using Turbo? He probably already has started. And a physical work here from Mark Belden, who we've looked at many of his works, and this was just another gorgeous example of what Mark Belden's doing. Flower Study 3, 2023, gouache on Saint Armand paper, 14 by 16 centimeters. Tiny. Tiny works are cool too. So, of course, we've seen a lot of Mark Belden's work. And that is your show. Thank you for joining me once again. Have a great weekend. I am so excited. Until next time, take care.